river system here, this is the St. Johns River. This is actually the longest river in Florida. It spans about 310 miles, making it one of the longest rivers in the U.S. Starts about 50 miles south of here in Vero Beach in the Fort Drum Water Conservation Area of Highway 60. Flows up to us here in Melbourne, Lake Washington, then out in the northwest corner up to Cocoa and Lake Poinsett, then out towards Orlando, back over to St. Augustine, and then all the way up the coast to Jacksonville, so it finally exits in the Atlantic Ocean. Now, if y'all look at it, it's really not that wide of a river. This is actually the average width of most of it for Brevard County here. By the time this thing gets to Jacksonville, it's 3 miles wide.
Wow.
That's nearly the length of Lake Washington. That's how big this thing gets. Culminates strictly from surface water runoff, afternoon showers, thunderstorms, tropical depressions, and hurricanes. This is all just rainwater. Rain determines everything out here in this ecosystem. Everything. I've seen it at its worst, so there's barely even any water in the river. And I've seen the other end of that, we can barely even see the trees sticking out of the water. There's that much water in here. Typically after a hurricane. Hurricane Irma a few years ago dumped that much water on us. And the river here, for the next week, week and a half after that hurricane's gone, the water levels continue to rise because it takes time for that water to filter off the higher lands. So it's always interesting out here whenever we get a hurricane coming out and seeing the aftermath of everything and how everything fared out here. So, if y'all are paying attention to that geography I just described, this river actually flows north. That's what's unique about it. Anybody know why it flows north? Then y'all went to school in Florida, huh? That's okay. First day of school in Florida, first thing you learn. Georgia sucks. That's why it flows north. Y'all laugh. I had a fella sitting in the front seat the other day wearing a big old Georgia Bulldogs hat. Looked at me and said, "That's a little uncalled for, son." I said, "No, sir. What's uncalled for is y'all losing Alabama every year in football." His wife about fell at the boat. She was laughing so hard. Him, not so much. No, it's actually about a 30-foot drop in elevation from Vero Beach to Jacksonville. About 1/10 of an inch per mile. That's it. On average, this river only flows at about 1,200 gallons per second, which is very slow for a river system. Right now, unfortunately, we're in such a severe drought. Last time we checked it was a month and a half ago, we were only flowing at about 750 gallons per second. It's getting really slow. Once we get down to about 500 gallons per second, that puts us in what we call our green zone. We call it the green zone because algae's green. You get shallow water in here, and then that flow rate's practically stagnant water because it's flowing so slow. Then you also get our triple-digit heat indexes in the middle of the day this time of year. You put all three of those factors together, that makes the place a ticking time bomb for an algae bloom. I've watched this water go from this color to pea soup green in a matter of 2 days. That quickly. If you're wondering why our water is this color, it's called tannic acid. When trees are submerged in water, they emit tannic acid. That's what stains our water brown. Perfectly safe to drink. That little gray tower in the middle of Lake Washington pumps about 12 million gallons of water out of this lake and estuary every day. Supplies Melbourne, Melbourne Beach, and Indian Harbor Beach with all of our drinking and bathing water. One of 5 cities left in the state that use surface water to supply the city with water. Everybody else uses aquifers. The danger of those resources, if you overpump them, that's how you create sinkholes. That's what Central Florida's been dealing with for the past 10 years. And unfortunately, the way that they're thinking that they're fixing these sinkholes or mitigating them is when they overpump the aquifer and they pump the aquifer dry, they put tubes in, they fill it full of concrete. So now where's the water supposed to go? Rain's on the ground, it doesn't get absorbed in because there's enough for it to absorb into. So it's ridiculous. It's pretty crazy what they're doing right now. And it's really going to end up hurting us all in the long run. Now, we do have very high nitrogen levels in here right now. That's going to be causing some major issues here as far as our fish. How do we have major nitrogen levels? Well, it all started with the city of Miami. Now, Miami is nowhere connected to the St. Johns River. So why Miami? Well, they have so many people living down there. They don't have the proper methods and proper, really, equipment to process all their human waste. So what we found out they've been doing for the past 10, 15 years is they've been shipping it up here to us in 18-wheelers, and they're paying the sod farmers out here, the ranchers, to dump it on their sod fields as fertilizer. Rainwater runoff has to go somewhere, especially on these farms. That water runoff comes into the river. And that's what we've having to deal with now. We actually, I think it's Friday, I got to bring another group of guys out here. And we've been building a case against the city of Miami for them doing this to us. Because the St. Johns River is a protected estuary. Okay? They can't do that. And so we've been working on this for a couple of years now, working on building, because we actually didn't even go within St. John's Water Management District, Florida Fish and Wildlife. We went to a complete different entity because we have no idea who all's involved in this nonsense. So here in the next year or so, we should have a pretty major lawsuit dropping on the city of Miami, so y'all keep an eye on the news, because there's going to be a lot of people that lose their jobs over this one. So even the city of Miami, what they've also been doing, they have a 3-mile stretch of pipe that goes out into the ocean. Now, why 3 miles? That's international waters when you hit 3 miles. EPA rules don't apply out there. They don't fall under U.S. law. They've been pumping their sewage out there also. And it's been killing our offshore fishing. For the past 10-15 years, I've noticed a steady decline in my mahi-mahi migrations, my billfish migrations, the sailfish and marlin, wahoo, all of it. And it's because when we go fishing, we're looking for sargassum. It's a weed that floats on top of the water. It provides a habitat for bait fish. Bait fish attract bigger fish. There's no bait fish on the sargassum anymore. It's just not there. And we're actually feeling effects all the way up into Massachusetts. I talked to another marine biologist up there. They go, oh no, it's affecting our tuna fishery too. Because guess what? The Gulf Stream right there off the coast goes north. And it carries all that junk all the way up the coast of the U.S. And they've been even feeling it all the way up in Massachusetts too. So, city of Miami about to be in a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble. So, where's everybody staying while y'all here with us? Melbourne, Melbourne Beach, Cocoa Beach?
Melbourne.
Melbourne?
Same.
Melbourne? Okay. Y'all want a little bit of a drive. You can go up A1A. Anybody ever tried gator tail before?
Yeah.
Best gator tail in town. I can tell you that right now.
Ooh.
New restaurant that just opened about 4 or 5 months ago in Cocoa Beach, just north of the Cocoa Beach Pier. It's called the Cocoa Beach Fish Camp Grill.
Ooh.
Phenomenal gator tail. They do it 2 different ways. They do chicken nugget style, gator bites, which is the most common preparation. Then they also do it as a slider. So you get 3 sliders on a plate, nice chunk of gator tail, and they put a little Cajun mayonnaise on there. It's phenomenal.
Ooh.
Really great place. They got frog legs on the menu. They also have the chicken sandwich there is as big as your head. It's insane how big this thing is. They got a beer can chicken on the menu now. They take a whole chicken, they put a Pabst Blue Ribbon that's behind, and they coat the whole thing with barbecue sauce, and they serve it just like that on your table, beer can and all.
Oh.
So they got a gator tank in there now. It's got 4 or 5 little baby gators in there. They'll sit there and stare at you through the glass. And they have actually Sweetie, the alligator, is actually a lady's personal pet. There's a huge ordeal in the news a couple of years ago with this lady having a pet alligator. The state finally allowed her to keep it, but once it reaches a certain size, she has to surrender it to a zoo or a sanctuary of some sort. But Sweetie, she's about 4 foot long. Usually wears a little Cocoa Beach Fish Camp t-shirt, has her mouth taped up, and she'll just wander around the building, just hanging out. Rub up against your leg every once in a while. So it's pretty cool. Decorated the whole place like an old fish camp, so there's old driftwood and stained glass all in it.
Cool.
The building itself actually has really cool history here for Cocoa Beach because it used to be called the Mousetrap. And the Mousetrap, you see, back in the early space age days, astronauts were rock stars back then. Okay? That was one of the main restaurants that all the astronauts went to, was the Mousetrap. And they also had Studio 51, which is all their party spot, which they eventually tore down, unfortunately. But really cool restaurant up there. They got tiki bar at the end